on the YouTube channel for the Weekly Dispatch and on Serum Audio for a new podcast episode. I am Shawn Tabor, and Joel is not here, but I do have a guest, Miss Emma Darcy. How are you today, Emma?
I am doing pretty great. How are you doing? Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
I am happy to have you. So if you're watching this on the YouTubes, you can see our happy little faces stuck in our homes. If you're listening to this on Serum Audio, there will be a link to the video in the show notes. So, but Emma, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Emma Darcy. I'm a pre-sales consultant at Click Dimensions, and I've been there for 3 years. So working in the marketing space for 3 years, but I've been in the dynamic space for about 8 or 9 years now. So a while. I'm from Ireland originally, but now actually living in Philadelphia. So a bit of a change.
How was that move from Greenville to Philadelphia?
So yeah, you're right. I was based in Greenville, South Carolina for 5 years and moved to Philadelphia almost 2 months ago now, so still fresh. I think the hardest part was getting the cats from Greenville, the 10-hour drive up to Philadelphia.
I can imagine.
A lot of cat drugs were used. I have some pictures of the cats really strung out, but thankfully they were weaned off the drugs. They're currently cuddling in the corner beside me right now, being real cute. So that was probably the hardest part of the move.
The last time I saw you, we were having lunch, and then we went to the cat. What was it called? The Cat Cafe.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wild.
That was fun.
It was great. I can't believe they moved. As soon as I left Greenville, they moved to Atlanta.
They said, "Let's pack it up. There's no point."
Our only customer has moved away.
That's right. Our patron is done. We are leaving. But now apparently it's like a cat nightclub or something.
Yeah, they were trying to do that in Greenville. It was kind of weird. It didn't really vibe very well. So I hope it goes well for them in Atlanta. I think they'll have more of an audience there for that.
Well, so if you're having a cat nightclub, is that like really chill EDM? Or, I mean, because you can't be like all thumping. The cats would be freaking out, wouldn't they?
I have thumping music around here all the time. My cats are fine, so I don't know.
That's true, but you've had them trained, so that's,
True.
That's probably
very true.
Yeah. So we're all having to shelter in place, all that good stuff, given this crazy time. What has working from home, how has that changed the way you go about your job, or has it?
So I've been fully remote for the last year anyway, so for me it hasn't changed that much. I guess the one thing that has changed is the fact that my sister is now home all day, every day, which is why you potentially hear some piano going on in the background, because she's currently teaching music lessons remotely. So her job is, she's a music teacher. One of her jobs was being a music teacher, so right now for her, she does that remotely. We actually get along a lot better than I thought we would. I thought we would be, at each other's necks all the time, but we've actually been having a great time. We live streamed a dance party last Saturday to Mixer, which was hilarious. We did some Irish dancing on our kitchen counters to the whole world. But yeah, we seem to be actually doing all right, to be honest.
What I find is you kind of have to let go. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to not worry about stuff, and just for your sanity, you just got to do stuff to, make the time go and to make yourself happy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Mixer. You do a lot of stuff on Mixer.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Talk a little bit about what you do on Mixer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So on the Mixer platform, it's a live streaming platform, kind of similar to like the Twitch or YouTube Live. A lot of people would tend to use it for more so gaming and some IRL web chats and stuff. What I'm doing on Mixer is I'm actually live streaming implementation of business processes for Dunder Mifflin, which for those out there who don't know what Dunder Mifflin is, it's the fictional office of the show The Office in the US. So we've been having a great time. We've been implementing a dashboard for Pam at the moment that allows her to keep track of when Michael's been taking naps, so she can report back to Jan on the activities. But we're also actually looking at.
Oh, might have lost you. You froze.
Hi.
Oh, you froze for a second.
Oh.
You were talking about. That's all right. You were talking about the dashboard for Pam.
Yep. So we're also doing some lead assignment as well. So we're kind of putting into place an analysis program for Pam to look at all the salespeople in Dunder Mifflin and say, hey, this person has this amount of opportunities, so I'm actually going to assign this out to Dwight instead of Jim because Jim's already at his quota, all that kind of thing. So we're putting a fun spin on actually implementing real life business scenarios. Did
you know that sounds awesome? I love how you're using the fictional scenario to show the real life capabilities. But Did you know that Joel Lindstrom has office pops in his cube at Hitachi? He does.
The last time we visited his office, I don't think I saw them.
Yep, he has Dwight, he has Michael, Toby, and I think he has Jim.
No way. I had no idea of this. It's amazing. I didn't know that was like one of his things. That's hilarious.
Yes, Joel Lindstrom collects office pops. But so one of the reasons, I mean, outside of you just being awesome like you are, one of the reasons I wanted you to come on was recently you went over, when we could travel out of the country, you went over to Scotland for Scottish Summit.
I did.
So what was that like? Because that looked like, I don't even know. I mean, I've seen Microsoft conferences with smaller agendas. So
it was phenomenal. Oh my gosh, it was probably one of the best community events I've ever been to, primarily because, the event itself was completely free for all attendees, but also the speakers that were there really wanted to be there. They wanted to talk about the topics they were speaking about, and also just getting to hang out with all of our close friends. It was pretty much supposed to be like the first summit of the year, right? So for me, it was like I hadn't seen a lot of these people since Amsterdam UG last year in March. So the likes of Keith Watling and Samet, I haven't seen any of those for like a year. So for me, it was like a big reunion with the people that inspired me to start my career in the community more so. But yeah,
that was awesome.
So fun. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing.
Well, that's great you got to go, given everything that's going on.
Right, it was right
before. We don't know when we're going to get to go.
Yeah, it was right before the peak of everything kind of going south, to be honest. We did make some jokes about it back when it was okay to make jokes about it, if one of us has it, we all have it now. But yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal event. It really was.
Wow. Yeah, it looked amazing, and I wish I could have been over there. And I've done, a few podcasts with Mark Christie and he's just got so much energy.
Oh man, I just don't know how he did it. Like he would text me at 3 a.m. his time, WhatsApp, because I did the marketing for the event as well. And he'd be like, hey, we really need to get this email out tomorrow. Is that okay? And I was like, it's 3 a.m. Why are you awake? So I just don't know how he and Ian pulled off just one of the most amazing events I've ever been to. It was so clean. It was so well organized. They had thought of everything up front. I never had any issues at all. It was really great.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping to work with him this summer on a virtual service summit.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So
you need a marketer. Sign me up.
You're done. I'll add you to my list.
Sure.
So one of the things you talked about there was, and it was very intriguing to me, the topic was the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So how did that whole topic come to be for you, to where you wanted to do a session on it?
It's actually a really interesting story. I was part of the Hack Greenville Slack channel, which is a Slack channel for people that work in tech in the Greenville area. And one of the guys said that, they were got into a conversation about imposter syndrome, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I have that very strongly myself. I had just started my career in pre-sales under Matt Winneman, and then Matt left very shortly after that, and I very much felt unprepared for the job because I was literally doing it completely by myself. And so the imposter syndrome was real. And so one of the guys were like, hey, we're doing a code conference. I'd really like you to come and talk about your experience with imposter syndrome, which is when I went, I'm not qualified to speak on imposter syndrome. And they were like, that makes you qualify by definition. So I was like, you know what?
You're an imposter being an imposter. So
exactly. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm not the only person that feels like this. So if I can at least get out and talk about my experiences, it might help somebody else to kind of feel not so alone. And so I did my first talk at a little group code meetup in Greenville, and it was really, really well received. And so I just decided, hey, this must be something I can probably take to the Microsoft community as a whole, because surely there are other people that feel this way. And I put out a tweet basically asking everybody, hey, do you know what imposter syndrome is? If you do, would you mind sharing some of your stories with me? And the response I got was outstanding. Like, there were some really well-known MVPs, some really well-known people in the community that would respond saying, hey, I also feel this way, but people see me as this leader in, I don't know, let's say Nick Dolman, for example, knows portals inside and out. He even came up and said, yeah, I experience this myself all the time. So to me, it blew me away that leaders in our community feel this way. So therefore, imagine what somebody just coming into the community must feel like. They've got to feel this too. So I wanted to bring some awareness to it and maybe share my experiences with how I actually handle it as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I have dealt with that many times in the past myself.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, for years. Crazy. So, and what's to me, what's crazy about it is once you have it, even when you kind of fill those gaps that you had and you attain a new level, you then get new ones. It's like it just continues.
It does. There's this amazing chart in the presentation that I have that I absolutely love. It's called the Dunner-Kruging effect. And basically what it means is you start out not knowing anything at the very start of your career. And you're like, you don't know anything, And then as you gain a little bit more experience, you start to say, oh, hey, I actually know things. And you start to get a little bit ballsy and a little bit cocky. At least in my case, I definitely did at Click Dimensions. Right. I was like, 6 months in, employee of the month twice. I knew all the answers, was total baller. That's and right. Then, moved to a different role and realized, holy crap, I actually know nothing. So you start to realize that you know what you don't know. So your confidence kind of takes a bit of a dive. So there's like this whole chart, and it starts up here and then it kind of curves all the way down. And then you're like at rock bottom when you're like, holy crap, okay, I'm not this amazing, intelligent person. I don't know everything, but I do know what I don't know. So from there, you can either start to take what you don't know and focus on that and learn, or you can just sit there and wallow in your self-pity forever. And then the cool thing is the chart does start to go back up as you figure out and learn things. And for me, I've definitely passed that bottom point now. I've been at that bottom point. I think when I started to get involved in the community, I see all these amazing people and I'm like, oh my God, I literally know nothing. And I did do some things to try and combat that as well. That definitely helped, but I'm definitely on the uprise now from that curve, which is nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I when I hit that bottom part, one of the things that helped me get back up, starting on that upward trend, was when you realize what those issues are, and you say to yourself, okay, I can't learn everything.
Yep.
But I can use my imposter syndrome, my feelings of inferiority, to find others who don't or can fill that gap. Maybe I can't fill my own personal knowledge, but someone else can do it, and I can empower them. Given this assumption that some people have, I can empower them to elevate themselves. And by doing that, it elevated me.
And again, it's a huge part of the community as well, because, you know, I'm not going to be an expert in everything. You know, my area is going to be marketing and sales. Whereas if I want to know something about field service, I'll come and ask you. If I want to know something about customer service, I'll go ask Sarah. You know, I know the people that are experts in their area and I can go to them. So I think for people that are coming into this community, especially newer people that are kind of getting acclimated and learning about what our community is about, don't feel like you have to be a jack of all trades. It's okay for you to not know something. That was a huge thing for me, was like, you know, going into client meetings, I don't have to know all the answers. I think that was a mistake I made early on. And so I always thought that if I don't know the answer, I'm a total failure and a total fraud, and they're going to see through me and I'm going to get fired. Yeah, so, you know, it's okay not to know the answers. It's how you actually approach your response and when you don't know. Don't bluff it. Don't be like, oh, yeah, I think you could do this. Like, that is going to make it worse. Just say, yeah, I don't know that. I will go find out and I will do some research. And people will appreciate that a lot more.
Right. And I also find that, you know, like you said, you worked for a couple of years with Matt Whitman, you know, and early on in my career, you know, I've worked with some folks who are really brilliant, right? Like at Hitachi now, I work with Joel. You know, Joel Lindstrom is brilliant. And God help me, he's going to hear this and I'm going to hear about it all the time. But anyway, he is. And what I found early on is I can't compare myself to him because we're different people. If I always try to be him, I'm going to fail because I'm not him.
Exactly.
Right? I need to emulate the good things he does and the habits he has, which I've tried to do, but I can't be him, so I've got to stop trying to be him.
Exactly.
And that really helps. It really helps.
100%. It's one of the phrases that I actually have incorporated into my talks is don't compare your start to somebody else's middle. And that resonated so much with me, especially, again, when you come into this community fresh. Like I started out in this community like a year ago. I went to UG Summit in Amsterdam. That's where I met Sarah Critchley and Keith Watling for the first time. What an explosive combination that is. But they very much encouraged me to start my own blog, but started in things that I wanted to write about. And for me, it was really intimidating. So I'm like, oh my God, these are like superstars in our community. I'm never going to be that good. But, you know, eventually I found my own way. I figured out my own branding, what I like, and, you know, I'm really enjoying it. Hello. I have a cat. I'm sure you're used to this.
Yes, mine are downstairs at the moment. We have the 3, but yeah. I just right now in my nerd cave, I only have Prudence here.
I love Prudence so much.
And Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, it is amazing because I mean, depending on how you handle feelings like that, imposter syndrome, they could either be really crippling, and destructive, or really enabling and powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can take it either way. Like I said, you can like wallow and always be miserable that you're never going to be as good as anybody else, which is not the case. I mean, again, don't compare your start to somebody else's middle. You will get there. It's all about what your passion and drive is and what your actual motivation behind doing this is. If you're just in this for like, you know, the community fame or whatever, you know, that's not going to be it. You've got to be very passionate about the community and the work that you do.
100%. Yeah, that was MVP for me. Was always one of those kind of career goals early on.
Yeah.
You know, like I was chasing the award.
Right.
And never got it. And the reason for that is because I never put in the work to get it. Right. Once I stopped chasing the award and just embraced the community, like you're saying, you know, I met people and then I got it, you know, and now it's so much more rewarding because, you know, we have to, at renewal time, we have to answer these 4 questions, right? And one of the answers for me is it's just so rewarding to know people and meet people and help people. And being in that position is amazing. So it's not so much the award, it's the place in the community, right?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. And the way that you can learn from other people, like, and I'm going to regret this too, but I've learned so much from Sarah as well, you know, and she, she just goes 90 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta say, okay, calm it down, bring it down a notch. And but like her and Matt Winneman and Joel and, you know, even George and Jonas and all these people that I met,
Yes.
Julie Yak, everybody.
Oh, yes.
I've learned so much from them, and so many different things. You know,
Right.
it's not all about I learned dynamics things. I learned different things from them. And I feel that they've made me a better person, and I've been able to handle things differently. And then in turn, I've been able to elevate and lift people up.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I feel like I'm kind of coming around to that as well. So Sarah's been instrumental in helping me get started in my career and with the community as well. And she's always there. If I ever need anything from like moral support, anything, she's always there. It's
She's a rock.
Yes.
She's a rock.
And I feel like, you know, I want to give back some of that to the community. So we do have some newer people in our community, especially in the Greenville area, that are like, you know, getting more involved in our community and doing their own thing. For example, Mary Thompson out in Columbia, South Carolina, she's setting up her own power platform community down there. And it's hard in Greenville or in Columbia because it's, you know, South Carolina, user group's quite small. But I am blown away by her passion and her drive. And she's like determined to do this. So if I can at least, you know, introduce her to the right people or help out in some way, I want to do that. I want to help other people grow.
Yeah. And the community is amazing because, you know, with the whole coronavirus thing, you know, all the teachers are teaching from home, you know, like my daughter and my wife. And my daughter had something where she wanted to do something for social studies for her students, where they're learning about different countries. And I put out on the MVP channel and ask just, you know, if anybody's interested in answering questions about your country and your culture for a group of third grade students. And the response was amazing. They were just all about it. Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
It's super cool.
Made me so happy.
Super cool. Yeah, and that's another thing that I absolutely love. Like, the community is so expansive. Like, you could go anywhere in the world at this stage, and you always have someone to hang out with. Always. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it was kind of funny when my daughter was saying, "Well, where do you have friends?" And then I started just naming off countries.
Yep.
And she's like, "No, not like Facebook friends." I said, "No, these are literal friends. These are actual friends." And it was amazing. It was, so we're gushing about the community, and why wouldn't we?
It tends to be what I do all day.
I know. I get all excited. I get all wrapped up. But it's but I mean, that's, you know, coming back to the imposter syndrome. That type of community is what can lift you out of that.
Yes.
You know, because someone is going to say, you know, like early on in my career, when someone came up to me and said, "Oh, I retweeted you," or when we first did the podcast, when someone came up to me and said, "Oh, I love the podcast," I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Oh, wow, thanks." Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
It blows me away. Like, I still get that at the end of my imposter syndrome talk. It was very emotional. I was also quite hungover, so it's probably why I was so raw and emotional giving this talk. It was Scotland. What are you going to do? And so people at the end of it, you know, I always ask them if anybody wants to share their own personal stories, and usually one or two people do. But in this case, everyone was like really supportive of each other. You know, Keith got up and he said he's just started a new role, and he says he's got imposter syndrome real hard right now about it, because he's going from being a user to being, you know, a consultant, and that's, you know, a big change. And so he's got imposter syndrome pretty hard with that. You know, he shared that, and honestly, like, I was tearing up listening to him. So I was like, oh my God, you are a phenomenal superstar in our community. I can't believe that you feel this way. And other people were like, you know, coming up to him afterwards being like, dude, you got this. You're going to do great. You have so much support of all of us. And there was so much hug and so much love and so many tears. And I was just like, This is amazing. So when people
great?
come up to me and tell me that my talk was, helpful and inspirational, I was like, do I get to call myself a motivational speaker now? Do I put that on my resume?
Hey, you motivated and you spoke, so yes, you can.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
guess
that
so,
works.
right? Yeah, so
So
super, super cool.
that is awesome. Will we be able to link your slides to the show notes so people can see those if they want?
There's a recording of the session. There's a full live recording of
Even
it.
better.
Yeah.
Even better. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes so everybody can experience that themselves.
I do want to just say that Mark Christie chose a very interesting thumbnail for this video, so don't be put off by the thumbnail picture. It's pretty shocking. I have a video that I give at the start of every one of my talk. I have like this video of me doing teddy bear rolls, and it's my legs are in the air in this thumbnail. It looks very questionable, but it's a good talk, I promise.
All right, we'll keep that in mind. As long as it's, if YouTube didn't take it down, you're fine. You're fine. So okay, well we'll link that in the show notes. But
sure.
This has been so much fun. I'm so glad we got to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
It's so crazy. It was just about a year ago that we finally met in person.
Yep.
At the Hitachi Customer Conference.
Yes.
So what a year it has been.
I still can't get over how insane things have gotten. But I've loved literally every second of it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Me too. Well, tell everybody how they can reach you if you wanted to be reached on the interwebs.
If my cat will let me have my headset, I will tell you. Yes, I am on Twitter primarily. I usually tweet about angry airport things, but that won't be happening for a while. So at Tattooed CRM Girl. Yes, I got my name from Tattooed CRM Guy. For those of you that are wondering, Chris did give me my name. I'm also on Twitter. I've got a blog, tattooedcrmgirl.com. I tend to tweet a lot. I blog a lot about marketing, dynamics, and actually some productivity stuff lately, which has been fun. And then I do have an Instagram. There's a link to my Instagram on my blog, but it's primarily just cats and plants. So I don't know if anybody wants to see that. You can check that out. It's also on the blog, but that's where you can find me.
We'll put all that in the show notes. And Emma, for real, this has been just so much fun. And I have enjoyed talking about the Imposter Syndrome. Group hug. All right. So for everybody listening on the podcast, thank you for tuning in. Again, we'll have all the links to the video in the show notes. And for those of you watching on YouTube, if you want to re-listen to the podcast, you can in your car on wherever you get podcasts. So with that, we'll sign off. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.